All right, moving into the next game, it is going to be UT Austin throwing out the Mage, and Texas A&M actually is going to switch it up, and they're going to go with what looks to be a handlock with Refreshment Vendor.
I saw a Refreshment Vendor being used in the regionals for the America
By Nias, yeah.
last weekend, so maybe they took something from that. I personally haven't seen this a lot on ladder, and I haven't tried it, but
yeah, he really techs his Nias, at least. I was talking to him. He teched his handlock against the mirror matchup. He ran double silence, double BGH, and Refreshment Vendors, and what he did was try and control the pace of the game by like never allowing his opponent to get into Molten Giant range and dealing with one threat at a time, and it really worked out because he had a high win rate in the mirror matchup. So maybe Texas A&M, sort of a similar idea. That's
actually a pretty good portal, Captain Green skin, even though it seems, you know, some waste in the battle cry.
Yeah.
Getting a 5/4 down for 2 mana is pretty good, especially since we do see Texas A&M has the double Void Caller, which doesn't line up that well against Green skin. I mean, from UT Austin's perspective, they have to be a little bit worried against Twilight Drake, since Twilight Drake lines up really good against Captain Green skin.
Yeah.
I'd say since you are playing a tempo deck, it's hard to make the call of just playing Arcane Intellect here, because you ultimately can't play around every minion your opponent's playing, and even then, you have to play minions, right? So, I mean, you can't give Handlock a free... Like, Handlock should not have the first minion out in this matchup. Generally, the way it works is Tempo Mage pressures early, Handlock tries to make a comeback, and at some point, it breaks one way or another, where, you know, either they get to Moltens and flood the board with Moltens and stabilize, or maybe they can't, you know, maybe they eventually they take over the board with big minions. But if you're just, if they're actually playing Arcane Intellect and just never playing minions early, then now Texas A&M has coin into 4-drop, into another 4-drop even. I feel like this is going awful for UT Austin. I kind of don't like the way they played, and also it's not a great hand to have a lot of fireballs and Archmage early. You want to see.
Maybe they have a Blingtron.
Early. Yeah.
Maybe that's why they're saving Captain Greenskin, because they're waiting for Blingtron to come out so they can buff up their weapon.
Yeah. Arcane Blast is better than Arcane Missiles in this matchup as well, so
yeah,
not the worst.
Because you can direct the damage. A lot of times, just doing like 1 damage to a Molten Giant, then 1 damage to a Twilight Drake, and then 1 damage to base doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And Blast is actually pretty good. 1 mana for 2 damage. Not exactly the easiest decision here for Texas A&M. They do not have another demon right now, so...
Void Caller all the way in the far left. They have the second Void Caller.
Yeah. I guess I meant another one after that.
Yeah.
So
another one after
it's hard
they play the Void Caller,
it's hard for them to play the other Void Caller right now. That'd be probably the standard play here, is to play the second Void Caller. It's the strongest minion in their hand that they can play, but it's definitely awkward, since at that point they would have no more demons. So Refreshment Vendor isn't exactly a strong minion. It's 4 mana for a 3/5, a little bit weak, and trade's not so good.
They could sort of replace their Void Caller with their other one, and then Mortal Coil to try and cycle into another demon. And in that case, they'd be able to fit in a tap, or Ironbeak Owl, the Mad Scientist, in order to make room for the Molten Giant that would, or sorry, the Mountain Giant that would come out next turn, so they don't have to worry about Mirror Entity.
Yeah, getting the silence down is pretty good. I mean, since there's not a great 4-drop here, like Twilight Drake.
Yeah. Actually, if they play the Owl, they won't be able to play the Mountain Giant next turn, because it'd be down to 6, and they would only have 5 mana. So they opt to tap anyway, and they do pick up a demon, so that's a pretty big deal if this Void Caller gets killed off.
Yeah, one of the problems with not silencing it is that if UT Austin decides to just trade in the Mad Scientist anyways, you can't really play your Mountain Giant into the Mirror Entity anyways. I mean, there's no guarantee that it is Mirror Entity, but no one can really take that kind of play. You still have to respect the chance that it could be Mirror Entity. So
it is the most common tempo secret. Some players opt to run Counterspell. At the beginning of TGT, when players were making Tempo Mage decks, a lot of players included Effigy, but I feel like that's been phased out quite a bit now. There still are some players that run it, but it's not nearly as likely.
Yeah, Austin's hand is extremely burn heavy and, say, control heavy. So if UT Austin can really just stabilize in the next, say, 3 to 4 turns, when they can get high enough mana to start comboing Archmage Antonidas and threatening, multiple fireballs in the same turn, it could generally make this matchup pretty lopsided in their favor. they decided not to trade in the Mad Scientist to get in the secret.
It's a little bold. He's going into this turn, you sort of expect the handlock player to play a big threat.
Yeah.
You know, there's always the risk you run where, you know, you trade it in, and it's not the best trade in the world in order to sort of play around a big threat being played. And then they have like something like an Ancient Watcher, which is about the best thing that they could have. Oh, wow.
So that's actually that 5 damage isn't super relevant, so it's actually a pretty good to get the 4-3
tie attack.
Yeah, it did a lot of damage to the Dim Guard. Definitely important because UT Austin can definitely use their life as a resource here to try to, get back the board.
Yeah, this allows them to like deal with the Mountain Giant this turn and like try and ping down the Doom Guard, or save up for an Arcane Blast next turn in combination with an Azure Drake.
I think I prefer. So I guess there's like 2 moves that are fairly reasonable. You can clear the board here with Fireball and Flame Cannon, which is pretty good. And later on, there's actually this nice little combo of Azure Drake and
Arcane
Blast.
Yeah,
get a 4 damage for 1 mana spell. So
it's pretty good value.
Yeah. Maybe you can check out the secret. So they decided to test for the mirror entity here with Sunfear Protector. So it is mirror entity.
Yep. Yeah. Not really many big threats for the Texas A&M guys here. None of the Twilight Drakes. A lot of times when the refreshment vendors are put in, it's in place of Twilight Drakes in that 4 slot.
Okay.
At least Nias, the guy who was running it over the course of the Americas Championship over the last weekend, that's what he replaced with it. So there's not as many big threats in this type of deck.
I think pretty soon we're going to be able to tell just what kind of tempo mage UT Austin is, because I think there's 2 types of tempo mages right now. There's more late game based ones and there's more early game based ones. The late game based ones are more anti-control, whereas early game based ones are better against Seeker Paladin and the like. So if UT Austin is running things like Ronin, this matchup can be hugely in their favor, especially if they cut Arcane Missiles for Arcane Blast.
Yeah.
Better against control. If they cut some of the, say, mirror images for Ronin, things like that, they could be extremely favored late game this matchup. And we see UT Austin is kind of getting there, and getting into the late game pretty well. Normally you'd think this matchup is Warlock favored late game, but it really depends how the mid game goes, because Warlock really needs to win the mid game in order to be good late game.
Yeah.
If the mid game kind of goes evenly like this, Archmage Antonidas can get out of control, and Molten Giant's not a card that is useful in this matchup sometimes. Like in a game dynamic like this, the Molten Giants are actually not useful because the games are so, like, Tempo Mage isn't just going all in here, they're just fighting for board and waiting for the late game, and once it gets to that late game, they can threaten anywhere between 12 to 15 damage bursts. So
yeah, and over the course of the first 2 weeks of the Collegiate Hearthstone Championship, most teams have opted to go for more control style decks. We haven't seen many aggressive decks, so having those cards that are substituted in for, anti-aggro cards or more anti-aggro cards could be a smart choice from these players.
It definitely feels like UT Austin has a more anti-control tempo mage, since we already see double Flame Cannon.
Yeah.
And double Flame Cannon's really good against some of the slower decks.
Yeah.
Also, I guess one of the things is Refreshment Vendor here we kind of see as quite a big liability for Texas A&M to have over the standard Twilight Drake, since Twilight Drake's one of the best cards in this matchup.
Yeah.
If you play something like anywhere between a 4-6 and a 4-9 generally in this matchup, it's so hard to kill, whereas Refreshment Vendor being just a 3/5 for 4 mana, the healing isn't as important against this deck, so it's more about taking the tempo early.
Yeah, it doesn't even trade into something like a Flame Waker. It can't even kill a Flame Waker in one hit, whereas like a Twilight Drake will line up really nicely into that.
Good draw by Texas A&M having the Ancient Watcher to test for the mirror entity. Watcher's pretty useless for mage.
That's a lot of Watchers.
Yeah.
UT Austin actually has a lot of 1-mana spells in combination with Archmage Antonidas, so they could fill their hand up with a lot of fireballs moving into either the next turn or the turn following.
Yeah, the name of the game here has to be Tempo. Texas A&M should recognize that, and I feel like they should be playing Iron Beguile here and just silencing one of their watchers and going for the attack. They had 2 extra mana lined up here, and I feel like the name of this game is definitely Tempo. On turn 9, you can also tap and play Dr. Boom. Just keep throwing down as many things as possible, because even though you would think that Handlock has an advantage late game, here with the board of 2 Watchers and a Sun Fury, none of these things really stop the Archmage Antonidas very well. Because ultimately you can have a bunch of taunts and stop them from attacking you, but it's not them that has to attack you if they have their Archmage up. You have to find an answer to deal with it. So
yeah, and if you look at it, it's really only 2 power that's on the board with that Sun Fury Protector.
Yeah.
So
ultimately, yeah, A&M can make some weird moves to deal with Archmage, silence your own Watcher, and then Hellfire. Or something.
That's really awkward.
That's really awkward. Yeah.
That's a lot of resources used to deal with just one threat. Granted, it is a big threat that could be game changing. So we'll see what UT Austin decides to go with. It looks like they are going to go with an Archmage Antonidas play. This turn.
Good turn for it. 2 spells. See how these missiles or the blast goes. Let's go with their missile.
Yeah, it seems pretty irrelevant where these missiles lie, unless all 3 of them went towards the Sun Fury Protector. But, they spread their damage across those Ancient Watchers.
Wow, this mirror, oh my god, this mirror image makes it so that Texas A&M
can't
I don't see a way that they can kill the Archmage, since if you silence your Watcher, you have to deal with the images, and if you Hellfire first, your 2/3 doesn't get to attack.
Yeah.
So
they can silence it, so they can stop the fireballs, but it still leaves the body up.
Yeah. I guess that's good.
Yeah. They're looking at a lot of damage still.
This is at least 2 fireballs. We know that there's 3 fireballs.
Yeah. And Dr. Boom hits the board. Archmage Antonidas stays alive. Texas A&M still has a pretty big wall, though, that UT Austin is going to have to get through. They don't have enough damage just from spells alone to start closing out the game.
Yeah, I feel like UT Austin does need to make a comeback on board before they're able to win, just because A&M has so much healing in their hand with Draxus and double heal bot. It's hard to just go for a move that's double fireball and then fireball again. Yeah. You don't technically even have enough damage.
Jungle Panther picked up from the Unstable Portal. Not the best, but I mean, sometimes that can be really good. If your opponent doesn't have a way to deal with that stealth creature, it can get in for 4 damage when you're not expecting it. But with Hellfire and Shadow Flame and things like that to worry about from the side of the Handlock, it probably isn't going to live for very long once it's thrown down onto the board.
Yeah, looking at the cards in UT Austin's deck list, it seems unlikely that they run any Flame Strike, since there's a lot of extra copies of things like Flame Cannon, and also their deck seems tuned to fight against Control Warrior and Handlock. A lot of pretty greedy stuff. So Flame Strike isn't that good in this matchup generally. So, but at this point, UT Austin is really looking for a Flame Strike to be able to come back on board. Again, they can't just start burning the other player out. You actually need to make a comeback on board. If you just start burning, they can counter you with multitude of cards, not like double heal bot, Draxus, Mal'Ganis. They'll counter your strategy there. You need a board lead into the burn.
Yeah. So Hellfire here is pretty much a full board clear for both sides, because it also kill off the boom bots, which will most likely hit that 5 health Ancient Watcher after it gets the 3 damage taken. So Hellfire is basically just like a board reset. They wouldn't get low enough to play Molten Giants afterwards, but it looks like they have different things in mind. They might want to see where these boom bots are going to hit before they decide to make the choice to go ahead and Hellfire.
I like the Hellfire here just because if you had something in your hand where you needed the 4 mana this turn, something like Dr. Boom for 7 or something, or like Double Belcher, you could just say trade in your 2/3 for the image and then just try how the boom bots go. If they kill enough, maybe just don't Hellfire. I think this is going to be a Hellfire. He wants to go double boom bot to face first before the Hellfire, just so you don't miss that 2 damage.
Ooh.
Oh, okay, so he wants to guarantee that that dies.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So I guess the thing here is the Watcher. What's the purpose of Watcher? It can absorb boom bots, but that's not relevant since boom bots are dead. Then it can absorb Ragnaros shots.
Yeah.
So maybe there's Ragnaros in their deck. Otherwise, you know, they lost some damage by doing that. Since if you go face for 2 and then Hellfire, it's more likely that the boombots hit face as well instead of the other minions that would have died anyways to Hellfire. So on average, I think they lost anywhere between like 5 to 6 damage there. I feel like it's quite a bit of damage lost to kill the Watcher on average.
Yeah. Maybe they thought that they might be able to get extra damage, but like you said, it would have been better to let the Hellfire go off first, because it's more likely that the boombots hit face.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they do have Ragnar's in the deck. The deck list seems pretty like tight. It's hard to fit in those new cards, but with Refreshment Vendors, and we haven't seen double BGH yet, we haven't seen double Owl. They might have cut something like that in order to make room for a Rag, but
regardless, this game is going pretty great for Texas A&M. UT Austin's just about fizzled out here. 2 Fireballs and a Flameworker's all they have left.
Yeah.
Not an easy way to deal with this Flameworker, unfortunately, but I mean, I feel like at this point you can just throw it on enough stuff and eventually.
You know your opponent has 2 cards in your hand, and you know one of them is a Fireball if you were keeping track of the Archmage Antonidas, so you figure what's the worst that the other one could be? Probably either like a big threat like Dr. Boom or another Fireball. So,
I mean, A&M has to know that there's Fireball. I don't know about this Mal'Ganis. It's so vulnerable to the Fireball, especially with this Flamewaker up. I feel like they can do something like tap and then at least silence it, and then tap will probably draw into something they can play.
Yeah.
Mal'Ganis, with then you knowing that there's a Fireball, it's like you're trading a whole turn away because it's 9 mana, trading for around 4 mana. You're not really gaining much from this Mal'Ganis at all, so.
Yeah. Sorcerer's Apprentice picked up not the best draw, but I mean, it's something to throw on the board. It's a threat.
Yeah, Austin is looking for a Arcane Intellects, things like Azure Drake and Arcane Intellects.
Yeah, we've actually already seen 1 Arcane Intellect from UT Austin. They played it really early on, so they do still have 1 in the deck. I believe we've seen 1 Azure Drake as well. I don't think we've seen 2, so they do have some cycle left in there, but
that's a pretty good pickup. With the Emperor, A&M can utilize all their mana fairly effective. Emperor, Owl, Dark Bomb.
Yeah.
Start by taking back some of this board and
bringing Jiraxis down to 8, so you can Jiraxis and create an Infernal in the same turn, or tap, and then play Jiraxis.
That's actually a very great, like very important effect.
Yeah.
Jiraxis is so much better on 8 than 9. Getting that hero power in on the same turn.
I would say so.
Probably not that relevant in this particular matchup, but in some matchups it's amazing.
Yeah.
So. Well, now there's no more spells for the Flamewakers. Double Molten Giant here. Eventually these are going to kick in.
Yeah. They can play just 1 now. I think they could be pretty safe. I'm not sure how... Oh, they don't even tap at all. Okay. Feel like this Molten Giant's going to lead them a long way. Ouch, Mana Worm off the top as their only card. That's not what you want to see this late in the game.
Yeah. UT Austin's just pretty much fizzled out. Second Molten Giant's coming down this turn. Maybe even with Jiraxis.
How scared is Texas A&M, though, of UT Austin top decking a burn spell? Is it even relevant? Like
I think you're right. It makes much more sense to save Jiraxis because I don't think it's possible to die, and Jiraxis doesn't heal you that much anyways.
Yeah.
So I feel like it makes more sense to just play the second Molten Giant here and
if they kill off the Flamewaker, best case scenario is UT Austin like top decks Arcane Intellect into Frostbolt Fireball, which would be 9 damage from hand. Actually, that would be exact lethal. So that is worst case scenario.
Okay.
I think they've only used 1 natural Fireball. The other 2 did come from Archmage Antonidas.
Yeah, this is pretty smart though. You can just get the heal for next turn.
Yeah. They do have BGH for Dr. Boom, so that's not too much of an issue. What would be an issue though if these Boombots decide to go rogue.
Yeah.
And hit face for 8. That'd be rough. I guess they can. Yeah. Well, they can't really check actually. They can't play BGH and Jiraxis in the same turn.
It should. No, they can. It's
that's what I said. Yeah, they can.
They can. I don't think Texas A&M will even go for the kill on the Boombots. It feels like it's better to just do something like Big Game Hunter and then just go face with the rest or something. Yeah, maybe kill the mana worm with your weapon,
Yeah.
but at this point you're gaining too much by just going face.
Yeah.
You're putting your opponent on a really strict clock at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes sense to trade the 8 attacks in the boom bots.
Hey, boom bots can be pretty threatening. Those boom bots can represent lethal damage.
Definitely.
Along with a burn spell if it's drawn. Azure Drake, see what it picks up. They need something. They need a spell, Mad Scientist.
Doesn't do it.
All right,
you can always
yeah.
check your boom bots.
I don't think they have enough damage regardless,
No.
because only one of these Molten Giants has to survive.
Is it possible that both died to... No, it's not possible. It's not even possible.
Yeah, no, it's impossible.
It's
And they know. They say well played. They do get 2 4 damage boom bots. Wow.
It still wasn't enough.
Yeah. All right, well, Texas A&M is going to tie up the series 1-1 with that hand lock. And now is where the mind games and the sideboards start to kick in.